Welcome to NSG 411, Study Session 5, Functions or Components of Management 3, Staffing. Introduction. In this study session, we will define staffing and scheduling. We will state the functions of staffing as well as the objectives and steps of staffing. Lastly, we will discuss performance evaluation and explain delegation of responsibility in staffing. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Define staffing. 2. Highlight some of the functions of staffing. 3. List the steps and state the objectives of staffing. 4. Discuss the concept of performance evaluation and delegation of responsibility. Staffing and scheduling. Staffing is the process of selecting and training individuals for specific job functions and charging them with the associated responsibilities. It can also be described as the number of employed personnel in an organization or program. Staffing is filling and keeping filled with qualified people or positions in the business. Recruiting, hiring, training, evaluating and compensating are the specific activities included in the function. In the family business, staffing includes all paid and unpaid positions held by family members, including the owner or operators. Functions in staffing. There are various divisions and functions in staffing that would be further explained in staffing process. These functions are identifying the type and amount of service needed by agency client, that is, the who, picturing the ideal candidate and which position is vacant, determining the personnel categories that have the knowledge and skill to perform needed service measures, that is, the qualifications possessed by each candidate. Predicting the number of personnel in each job category that will be needed to meet anticipated service demands. Obtaining budgeted positions for the number in each job category needed to service for the expected types and number of clients. Recruiting personnel to fill available positions. Selecting and appointing personnel from suitable applicants, that is, making a final decision on whom to hire. Combining personnel into desired configurations by unit and shift. Orienting personnel to fulfill assigned responsibilities. Assigning responsibilities for client services to available personnel. Steps and objectives of staffing. The following are the steps of staffing. Determine the number and types of personnel needed to fulfill the philosophy, meet fiscal planning responsibilities, and carry out the chosen patient care management organization. Recruit, interview, select and assign personnel based on established job description performance standards. Use organizational resources for induction and orientation. Ascertain that each employee is adequately socialized to organizational values and unit norms. Use creative and flexible scheduling based on patient care needs to increase productivity and retention. Develop a program of staffing education that will assist employees meeting the goals of the organization. design a staffing plan that specifies how many nursing personnel in each classification will be assigned to each nursing unit for each shift and how vacation and holiday time will be requested and scheduled. Hold each head nurse responsible for translating the department master staffing plan to sequential 8 weeks time schedules for personnel assigned to her or his unit. Post time schedules for all personnel at least 8 weeks in advance. Empower the head nurse to adjust work schedules for unit nursing personnel to remedy any staff excess or deficiency caused by census fluctuation or employee absence. Inform each nursing employee that requests for specific vacation or holiday time will be honored within the limits imposed by patient care and labor contract requirements. Reward employees for long-term service by granting individuals special time requests on the basis of seniority, called from American Nurses Association Principles of Nursing Staffing. The 9 principles are: 1. Patient care unit related. A. Appropriate staffing levels for a patient care unit reflect analysis of individual and aggregate patient needs. B. There is a critical need to either retire or seriously question the usefulness of the concept of nursing hours per patient day (HPPD). C. Unit functions necessary to support delivery of quality patient care must also be considered in determining staffing levels. 2. Staff related. A. The specific needs of various patient populations should determine the appropriate clinical competencies required of the nurse practicing in that area. B. Registered nurses must have nursing management support and representation at both the operational level and the executive level. C. Clinical support from experienced RNs should be readily available to those RNs with less proficiency. 3. Institution or organization related. A. Organizational policy should reflect an organizational climate that values registered nurses and other employees as strategic assets and exhibits a true commitment to filling budgeted positions in a timely manner. B. All institutions should have documented competencies for nursing staff, including agency or supplemental and traveling RNs for those activities that they have been authorized to perform. C. Organizational policies should recognize the myriad needs of both patients and nursing staff. Steps involved in staffing process. 1. Manpower requirement. 2. Recruitment. 3. Selection. 4. Orientation and placement. 5. Training and development. 6. Remuneration. 7. Performance evaluation. Types of recruitment. Internal recruitment. Internal sources are primarily 3. 1. Transfers. 2. Promotions through internal job postings. And 3. Re-employment of ex-employees. Hurdles. The candidates have not to cross over many hurdles. Many hurdles have to be crossed. Approach. It is a positive approach. It is a negative approach. Sequence. It precedes selection. It follows recruitment. Economy. It is an economical method. It is an expensive method. Time consuming. Less time is required. More time is required. Performance evaluation. This is necessary in order to keep a track or record of the behavior, attitudes, as well as opinions of the workers towards their jobs. For this, regular assessment is done to evaluate and supervise different work units in a concern. It is basically concerned to know the development cycle and growth patterns of the employees in a concern. This evaluation helps the employer to appraise the employee if there is a great development. A performance appraiser is a part of guiding and managing career development. It is the process of obtaining, analyzing, and recording information about the relative worth of an employee to the organization. Performance appraisal is an analysis of an employee's recent successes and failures, personal strengths and weaknesses, and suitability for promotion or further training. It is also the judgment of an employee's performance in a job based on considerations other than productivity alone. Aims of performance appraisal. Generally, the aims of a performance appraiser are to give employees feedback on performance, identify employee training needs, document criteria used to allocate organizational rewards, form a basis for personnel decisions, salary increases, promotions, disciplinary actions, bonuses, etc. Provide the opportunity for organizational diagnosis and development. Facilitate communication between employee and administration. Validate selection techniques and human resource policies to meet federal equal employment opportunity requirements. To improve performance through counseling, coaching, and development. Methods used in performance appraisal. A common approach to assessing performance is to use a numerical or scalar rating system whereby managers are asked to score an individual against a number of objectives or attributes. In some companies, employees receive assessments from their manager, peers, subordinates, and customers, while also performing a self-assessment. This is known as a 360-degree appraisal and forms good communication patterns. The most popular methods used in the performance appraisal process include the following: management by objectives, 360-degree appraisal, behavioral observation scale, behaviorally anchored rating scales. Trait-based systems, which rely on factors such as integrity and conscientiousness, are also commonly used by businesses. The scientific literature on the subject provides evidence that assessing employees on factors such as this should be avoided. The reasons for this are twofold. 1. Because trait-based systems are by definition based on personality traits, they make it difficult for a manager to provide feedback that can cause positive change in employee performance. This is caused by the fact that personality dimensions are for the most part static, and while an employee can change a specific behavior, they cannot change their personality. For example, a person who lacks integrity may stop lying to a manager because they have been caught, but they still have low integrity and are likely to lie again when the threat of being caught is gone. 2. Because they are vague, are more easily influenced by office politics, causing them to be less reliable as a source of information on an employee's true performance. The vagueness of these instruments allows managers to fill them out based on who they want to or feel should get a raise, rather than basing scores on specific behaviors employees should or should not be engaging in. These systems are also more likely to leave a complaint open to discrimination claims because a manager can make biased decisions without having to back them up with specific behavioral information. Delegation of responsibility. Delegation is the assignment of responsibility or authority to another person, normally from a manager to a subordinate, to carry out specific activities. It is one of the core concepts of management leadership. However, the person who delegated the work remains accountable for the outcome of the delegated work. Delegation empowers a subordinate to make decisions, that is, it is a shift of decision-making authority from one organizational level to a lower one. Delegation, if properly done, is not abdication. The opposite of effective delegation is micromanagement, where a manager provides too much input, direction, and review of delegated work. In general, delegation is good and can save money and time, help in building skills, and motivate people. Poor delegation, on the other hand, might cause frustration and confusion to all the involved parties. Some agents, however, do not favor a delegation and consider the power of making a decision rather stressful. Delegation is one of the most important management skills. These logical rules and techniques will help you to delegate well and will help you to help your manager when you are being delegated a task or new responsibility. Delegation is a two-way process. Good delegation saves you time, develops your people, grooms a successor, and motivates. Poor delegation will cause you frustration, demotivates, and confuses the other person, and fails to achieve the task or purpose itself. So, it's a management skill that's worth improving. Here are the simple steps to follow if you want to get delegation right, with different levels of delegation freedom that you can offer. Delegation is a very helpful aid for succession planning, personal development, and seeking and encouraging promotion. It is how we grow in the job. Delegation enables us to gain experience to take on higher responsibilities. Delegation is vital for effective leadership. Traditional interpretations of the SMARTER acronym use exciting or enjoyable. However, although a high level of motivation often results when a person achieves and is given recognition for a particular delegated task, which in itself can be exciting and enjoyable. In truth, let's be honest, it is not always possible to ensure that all delegated work is truly exciting or enjoyable for the recipient. More importantly, the ethical aspect is fundamental to everything that we do, assuming you subscribe to such philosophy. The steps of successful delegation. 1. Define the task. 2. Select the individual or team. 3. Assess ability and training needs. 4. Explain the reasons. 5. State required results. 6. Consider resources required. 7. Agree deadlines. 8. Support and communicate. 9. Feedback on results. Levels of delegation. Examples. These examples of different delegation levels progressively offer, encourage, and enable more delegated freedom. Level 1 is the lowest level of delegated freedom, basically none. Level 10 is the highest level, typically and rarely found in organizations. A. Wait to be told, or do exactly what I say, or follow these instructions precisely. B. Look into this and tell me the situation. I'll decide. C. Look into this and tell me the situation. We'll decide together. D. Tell me the situation and what help you need from me in assessing and handling it. E. Give me your analysis of the situation, reasons, options, pros and cons, and recommendation. F. Decide and let me know your decision, and wait for my go-ahead before proceeding. G. Decide and let me know your decision, then go ahead unless I say not go. H. Decide and take action. I. Decide and take action. J. Decide where action needs to be taken and manage the situation accordingly. What to delegate? There's always the question of what to delegate and what to do yourself, and you must take a long-term view on this. You want to delegate as much as possible to develop your staff to be as good as you are now. The starting point is to consider the activities you used to do before you were promoted. You used to do them when you were more junior, so someone junior can do them now. Tasks in which you have experience are the easiest for you to explain to others, and so to train them to take over. You don't use your experience to ensure that the task is done well, rather than to actually perform the task yourself. In this way, you gain time for your other duties, and someone else becomes as good as you once were, increasing the strength of the group. Tasks in which your staffs have more experience must be delegated to them. This does not mean that you relinquish responsibility because they are experts, but it does mean that the default decision should be theirs. To be a good manager, though, you should ensure that they spend some time in explaining these decisions to you so that you learn their criteria. Decisions are a normal managerial function. These too should be delegated, especially if they are important to the staff. In practice, you will need to establish the boundaries of these decisions so that you can live with the outcome. But this will only take you a little time, while the delegation of the remainder of the tasks will save you much more. Delegation may be direct or indirect. Direct delegation is usually verbal direction by the RN delegator regarding an activity or task in a specific nursing care situation. In this case, the RN decides which staff member is capable of performing the specific task or activity. Indirect delegation is an approved listing of activities or tasks that have been established in policies and procedures of the healthcare institution or facility. The 5 rights of delegation. 1. Right task. 2. Right circumstances. 3. Right person. 4. Right direction or communication. 5. right supervision or evaluation. Factors for determining if client care activities should be delegated. Potential for harm to the patient, complexity of the nursing activity, extent of problem solving and innovation required, predictability of outcome, extent of interaction. Barriers to delegation. Many nurses, particularly new ones, have difficulty delegating. The reasons for this include experience issues, licensure issues, and quality of care issues. Study session summary. In this study session, we stated the functions of staffing as well as the objectives and steps of staffing. Lastly,